Morning, everybody. Oh, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Uh, just to welcome you all, my name is Kyle Burgess. I'm the chair of the board for the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce and also a senior employment lawyer with Minkin Employment Lawyers. Thank you all very much for coming to this August breakfast networking event. I would also like to acknowledge the following board member who is in attendance as well. It's Shauna Fardy, who is the interim vice chair on the board and also with Sun Life Financial. I want to begin our meeting, excuse me, in a good way by acknowledging the land that we live and work on. This is an important step on the path of truth and towards reconciliation, which is the work of all Canadians. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, whose presence here continues this day. We also would like to acknowledge this is the unceded treaty lands of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty, and thank the signatory nations respectively for sharing these lands with us. We would also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our closest First Nation community, and we extend the hand of partnership to them so we can live in a good way in accordance with our treaty agreements. We're all treaty people and we all have responsibilities to the treaty agreements. I invite you to find out more about the treaty that you live on and consider not only the way that the land shows up for you, but how you can show up for the land to live in reciprocity. Thank you very much to RBC Royal Bank. They're our sponsor for the August Breakfast Networking session and for agreeing to share with us this morning. And we will, of course, be hearing from them very shortly. Before we do, I want to move right along to an update, from a chamber update from Abdus Samad. So Abdus, if I can hand the virtual microphone over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. Let's have a quick update. The government of Ontario recently launched a program to help food and beverage processors during COVID. It's around adopting new technologies, finding ways to scale their operations. It's a $6 million investment, and there's two application grants, and they're doing it in two separate rounds. The key areas are for you to qualify for this grant, or if you're implementing new technology to improve food safety, if you're developing a new kind of product to increase your sales, or if you're improving health and animal health through to preventing introduction of safety protocols within your process. I will put the link for that in the chat box. If you have any questions and if you want to access that grant, or if you need some help accessing that grant, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Abdus. I'm going to move along here now, of course, to introduce Pat Lusink with the Best Western Voyageur Place Hotel, who is the 2021 Breakfast Series sponsor, to introduce our speaker this morning. Good morning, Pat. Let me hand over that virtual microphone to you now.
Good morning, everyone. I think I look really tired, but I actually put lipstick on. That was kind of exciting. Anyways, good morning. I am the general manager at Best Western Voyageur Place Hotel here in Newmarket at Yonge and Davis Drive. And I guess I just have a couple of little announcements. The Buttery Restaurant, which is located off of our lobby, separately owned and operated, is open again for business. So please come and join them. They have, they are open now just for breakfast and lunch every day of the week, except for Monday. And on Monday, they're just open for breakfast. So please come and see them. And I can't believe it, but I know it was a month ago that I said I was looking for a guest service agent for our front desk. And I'm still looking for a guest service agent for our front desk. So if anyone has any suggestions of where I could advertise, and I've heard this from other business owners and companies as well, that just finding a hard time to find people to work. I mean, I have received resumes, way less volume than what I would have got in the past, and I have interviewed some people, and then they've either turned down the job or just turned down the interview, or they've come for an interview and then I said, hey, could we have your references? And then they just don't answer, or if they have answered, they've said they've taken another job. It's just been really frustrating. And even the number of people who have applied to the job, and then when I say, hey, I'd like to go on to the next steps, just crickets. Like nobody answers. It's like, why did you apply for the job in the first place? I mean, I've got resumes that I've received, and within a half an hour or an hour, I'm saying, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? And it's just like, you know, no answer. So I don't know if people have to show they're applying for jobs to get EI. I don't know. Anyways, that's my little rant for this morning. I hope things are going well for everyone. Our business is actually picking up. Like, I can't believe it, finally. So for the month of July, that was the first time that our occupancy was better than the month before or the year before, the corresponding year before, in 16 months. So that was very exciting. Anyway, my job here today is to introduce our guest speaker, and that is Marco Allegritti. I hope I'm saying that right. Marco is a group consultant with the RBC Royal Bank. In his current role as group consultant, he provides advice to companies and HR teams on employee wellness and group solution strategies. With over 14 years of experience at RBC, Marco has held various roles in management, financial planning, and now working directly with commercial clients and business owners. So welcome, Marco.
Thank you, Pat, for the introduction. I think your little blurb there was a really great segue into the presentation. Just want to check audio. Can everyone hear me okay? Just a couple nods there, thumbs up, great. I'm gonna share my presentation now, and bear with me, everyone, as I get through the tech here. Okay, looks good. All right. Okay, so once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Pat, for the introduction. And you know, the challenges you've been experiencing hiring is not uncommon. It's a unique environment, and our presentation today is really going to take us through some of the challenges that are happening in the labor market. It's unique, of course. You know, going into this post-pandemic environment, what does it mean for companies? And we're talking about attracting and retaining employees. What are the effects to the labor market? Because we're seeing some uniqueness where, you know, individuals have experienced something that they've never experienced before. So this level of reassessment around careers, around life, around wellness is taking place. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to keep it very light, and I hope that we have a really good dialogue. We have a great group of individuals here on the call today, and all uniquely experiencing things a little bit differently. So I'm hoping that we can have an opportunity to share towards the end of the presentation. So let's just get right into it. So retirements and a so-called level of individuals quitting their jobs really was in the decline during the pandemic. So a key question that is being asked now is, will a return to pre-pandemic retirement and job quitting levels worsen the emerging labor shortages currently in Canada? During the pandemic, we saw both numbers of retirements and quitting jobs due to dissatisfaction drop significantly. But as the labor markets recover, the number of individuals quitting and returning to pre-pandemic levels is sharply increasing. So if you guys see the slides there, we're definitely starting to see a shift as things start to recover a little bit. You know, we expect retirement delayed by the pandemic to also pick up in the second half of 2021. And this is really being driven by the aging baby boomer cohort. And what is that going to mean to skilled trades, individuals that continued working throughout the pandemic and now are reassessing and looking towards retirement? What is that going to do, and how is that going to affect companies that currently have very experienced individuals? How are they going to backfill those positions? These are all questions that are now being asked. And it's just going to exacerbate the labor shortages into the fall that we're already starting to experience. Just another indication of how, you know, the surge in retirements will worsen Canada's already declining labor force participation rate. We saw a really big spike of people not retiring in 2020, but we're starting to see that come up now. So coupled with the rise in demand where job vacancies are back at pre-pandemic levels, we're expecting an increase in voluntary job turnover to really shorten the labor market. So, you know, as we start to move into a post-pandemic environment, what are companies going to do to help retain and attract employees? And that's something that I've been working on quite significantly with a lot of companies, in particular in the Newmarket Aurora area when I'm having consultation sessions. You know, how are we attracting employees? What are they looking for? What are those discussions really sounding like now after companies have experienced some pretty important life events that have taken place? So, you know, catchphrases was key during the pandemic. And here's another one for you: I quit, the great reassessment and its impacts on the workforce. So, you know, a few key implications to these two key areas around workers might be reassessing their careers, how the actual pandemic has affected them personally as well as their families. So, you know, it was interesting that you know, society is in grieving, right? So as we go through those cycles of grief, you know, how are we resetting our priorities? It's just a natural occurrence for us to really start to contemplate, to think, and employees are doing that. And what we're finding is when we meet with business owners, we're really having thoughtful discussions and conversations around not just the business operations and what things are going to look like from a business strategy standpoint. The critical aspect around the employee and the workforce, conversations are much more detailed, really focused on how are we engaging employees, what's important to our employees, because as Pat mentioned, just for this guest services position, how difficult it is to actually get an employee or an individual to not just apply, but to actually go through the actual steps to onboard. Is it a matter of making the position a little bit more attractive? How are you posting it on the various sites? What are you using by way of description? Is it a matter of rewards? Is it a matter of additional benefits? Is it a matter of that hybrid work environment? How are we really engaging our existing employees to maintain that employee base? And as we start to grow, how do we continue to onboard employees by attracting them? So we've seen a dramatic shift in how companies are adapting in 2021. As companies make plans to adapt new business models, which has been a really important aspect of planning over the next 24 months, there's been a real shift in focuses of organizational issues to more of a human-centric concerns. According to recent studies, here are the top 5 priorities in 2021. And if you take a look at that list, it's really focused on employee well-being and mental health, which is a huge aspect of how we work with our employees, making sure that they're healthy and happy and they are taking care of their mental health. You know, of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, these cultural aspects of companies have become more and more important to employees when they are out there looking for jobs, and what companies they want to work for. It's become very cultural based for job seekers out there. Leadership development, employee experience, and of course, managing remote workers, this hybrid work environment, or am I going to be returning to work? Those conversations are very important to be had with your existing employees, as well as the ones that you're looking to hire. So what this means for the employee really is that they have more say. It's becoming a candidate-driven market. So when you're not hearing back from candidates, it's probably because they found another opportunity elsewhere, and they're really being thoughtful about their next job opportunity. So they have a lot more decision-making power when it comes to a competitive market out there. So, you know, keep this in mind when you are looking at hiring employees, and how you can develop a compensation model that focuses a little bit more on the employee base, because over time, over the next 24 months, it's going to become increasingly important. So what we've been experiencing at RBC in speaking with our commercial clients, as well as companies that we're coming across, is achieving business objectives through an employee wellness strategy has been critical. And this shift to a more comprehensive compensation structure is something we've been seeing prior to COVID. COVID has just really has really brought it to the forefront in a much faster way, similar to technology. You know, who would have thought that a company like RBC would have been able to transition its entire workforce to a virtual environment, working from home in a matter of weeks, right? So all businesses have experienced a level of transition. When we talk about employee wellness, health and safety were #1 concerns for companies. Whether you were managing operational health and safety issues, making sure your employees were safe at work and at home, the evolution of the conversation really did start to take place, where here are 4 key areas that we found we were really having conversations with employers, HR teams, around building a more comprehensive compensation structure. You know, mental was at the top of the list. Do I have a benefits program? Am I offering my employees enough support when it comes to mental health? Financial, you know, a lot of companies are offering retirement savings programs. And if you're not offering a retirement savings program, how do I incorporate a more comprehensive financial wellness approach to my retirement savings program? Because it's becoming increasingly important. You know, and just to share that one stat with you, you know, these are member insights. So these are our existing clients that we have surveyed when it comes to how important a retirement program is around prioritizing their day-to-day expenses, and, you know, how important it is for a company to be offering some form of retirement savings, physical, making sure that those aspects are covered within wellness strategies, and of course, emotional. So, you know, this is a great wheel to kind of keep in mind when you're having those conversations with your management team around, are you touching some, or if not all, these boxes when you are building out a compensation structure, retirement structure, or rewards structure for your employees. So when we talk about how companies are really taking a look at attracting and retaining top talent, what we're finding is that they're utilizing more of this comprehensive compensation structure to really attract those key top talents and retain those key employees. You know, 60% of employees say that benefits are an important reason why they join their companies. But what we're finding is that it's those intrinsic benefits, perks, and flexibilities that employees are really resonating with. It's not just a matter of affecting your bottom line by adding benefits that are going to cost the company more money. It really is about being a little bit more intrinsic about the rewards and benefits we're offering. You know, the mental health coverage enhancements, of course, is key in any in any benefits program that you're offering employees. flexibility has been now a close second component. Having those conversations around return to work and what that's going to look like, flexible work hours, creating a more successful remote work environment, home office expenses being paid, rewards and recognition for not, that are not one size fits all, understanding what's important to your employees. Hybrid work arrangements, of course, are critical, but the perks of a job are critically important to a lot of employees. It's not just monetary. It could be virtual health aspects that you're offering, wellness weeks. A lot of companies were providing individuals with additional weeks of vacation or something a little bit less structured to allow for more personal days to focus on physical and mental well-being. So all these things are great ways to enhance your current compensation structure. And these are all little bits that I've gathered from companies that we've worked with around building wellness models for them. We talk about other larger companies and how they're leveraging professionals or colleagues within their community to provide support to the company. Always you're going to enhance and improve upon your current compensation structure. Here are just some examples I wanted to share around some companies that I came across that are really creative in ways to enhance what they're currently offering. Just to draw on Lululemon, I'm sure everyone knows who they are, helping employees maintain physical and mental well-being during the pandemic, offering a series of wellness initiatives. Just to share RBC, having the opportunity to work with RBC Olympians was amazing during this period of time. We had exposure and access to RBC Olympians talking about resiliency, how they worked through pandemic, not being able to train with their teammates, how different it was going into the Tokyo Olympics and preparing for them. So, creative ways for companies to really not just improve on benefits by way of increasing them in a dollar aspect, but look at ways to offer flexibility and perks. Those are the conversations that having them with employees is really paying dividends to understanding what's important to them. So on the market trends, when it comes to group retirement savings space, we're seeing some changes also take place in this area. We're tending to go a little bit more now towards a more comprehensive financial wellness program versus a traditional retirement savings program where, whether it's a company matching program, employees are choosing their own investments or working with a financial advisor. We're really starting to see that a more comprehensive wellness program is really being looked at as table stakes right now. Employees are looking for advice. They're looking for education. I joke about this often where when I'm having a conversation and I'm launching a program, what I'm finding is that, I'm looking at a group of employees in front of me, 90% of the time, if you ask them if they have an appointment booked with their dentist or their doctor, it's booked. They have it booked 6 months out. They have it scheduled. So health is a key priority. But if you ask them if they're working with an advisor or if they have their finances in order, more often than not, they don't. Yet it is the number one stress that a lot of individuals have. And in fact, increasing post-pandemic. So, it's important to understand how you play a critical role, how employers, companies play a critical role in the financial well-being of their employees. Workplaces become next hotbed for financial conversations. Everyone is talking about interest rates. Everyone is talking about the housing market, mortgage rates, finances, the economy. These are all hot topics. Companies play a unique role in providing or can provide some key advice, which in turn will support employees in ways that is intrinsic, however, is also affecting them economically. So this is where you guys as business owners play a key role in supporting your employees or reviewing how the compensation structure is structured at your places of business to really cater to your employees and the future of the company over the next 24 months and into the coming years. We're seeing this big influx, and the statistics are showing that 50% of your workforce is going to be of millennial base over the next few years. That's significant, and that demographic is really focused on a more comprehensive compensation structure that includes key benefits, that includes flexible work arrangements, as well as some good perks. On top of that, retirement savings programs and wellness programs. So, this was a lot of information I know that I kind of got through in a relatively quickly way. I'm going to open it up to some questions and comments, and just an opportunity for us to share some thoughts, or if you have any direct questions for me. I also have my colleague Cynthia Carroll on the line, who is a vice president of commercial banking, supporting the Newmarket and Aurora area specifically, that we can share some of our insights that we're seeing or we have seen over the last 18 months. So I'm going to stop sharing right now so I can kind of see everyone, and we can get into some questions and answers.
All right, Marco, thank you very much, and thank you very much to RBC Royal Bank for sharing your thoughts about the implications. So we do have some time for some questions here. I'm not sure if people want to just put them in the chat, or if they wanted to raise their virtual hand here, and we can ask that way. Either way works for me. Oh, Tracy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just when I know that I'm speaking with a lot of employers, and I find this is probably one of the number one things that is on top of people's minds right now is employee turnover and attracting and retaining, because there are a lot of jobs out there, and there's a lot of headhunters and lots of things going on. And I think the other fear for employers is there's not a lot of guidance on policy now that our employees back to work. I mean, there's not a lot of clarity around, now we have to actually think about those policies about remote working and all of the implications. It's a really interesting place for employers to be right now. And I guess the other piece that plays on that is a lot of the things you mentioned cost extra money to an employer at a time that they don't have that money. And I know it's the ultimate return, but it's also a very difficult time to come up with that. So I'm just wondering kind of what you're hearing. There's so many priorities for employers in trying to figure it out. Are there some quick wins in terms of employee retention that, maybe takes more time to implement, but not the financial resources?
Yeah, Tracy, that's a great question. I think if we look at the policy aspect, working with an employment lawyer first and foremost as you reintegrate is key. And I'm not sure, Kyle, is that your expertise?
That's my area, and a lot of what you were talking about is stuff that's been discussed over the last number of weeks with clients of mine in that sort of general sense. But that is.
Yeah, and I think the policy question comes up often with us as well around, when we partner with our partners to ensure that you have the right policies in place, because that's going to be an important conversation that you're going to have with employees, and having that conversation first and foremost ahead of re-entering. Things are not going to be normal. They're going to be different. So making sure that your employees are aware of that ahead of time is critical. And touching upon quick wins that are not going to cost the company a lot of money, because implementing retirement programs of course, affects the bottom line of the company. If you do have an existing retirement program, I think from a quick win standpoint, reviewing that program from a participation standpoint and engagement standpoint is a quick win for an individual or company that already has one. Understanding if your employees are using it, understanding if your employees are really taking advantage of their benefits that you already have in place. Most of the time, they're not being utilized to the full. And I think that's another quick win that companies can focus on. And really is understanding what your employees want and need. Some of them, like I mentioned, are intrinsic, that don't really cost a lot of money to implement. But starting with an employee feedback or engagement survey to understand where they are and planning. It could be that, let's say 80% of the employees want a retirement program if you do not have one. But phasing it in over time, acknowledging that it's something that you do want to implement. Now is not the right time because of what has transpired, but knowing that you have all those other pieces in place and that's on the horizon is reassuring to employees. So hopefully, Tracy, I've answered your question around, I think employee engagement and communication is where things start with a survey to understand what they're really looking for, and then piecing it together, working with individuals like Kyle and myself around experiences that we've gone through will help as well.
Thank you. That does help. I see Jennifer has a question. I just have one other thing that you said really intrigued me, and that was the financial education at work. Why it intrigues me is just because intrinsically I feel like that would have been good when I was starting out, and you kind of like learn it as you go. But even it's not just the people starting out that need that, but how do you put something like that in place as an employer?
And if you have an existing program in place, if you talk to your provider around what that total financial wellness piece looks like, they should be working with the advisors of that company around coming into the workplace. RBC's program is unique in the sense that we have the opportunity to engage with our community companies by way of branch. If you're not working with RBC and you're working with another provider, it's easy in the sense that there has to be a level of commitment by your current provider around how are they going to engage with the employees on an ongoing basis around those key topics. Because like you said, Tracy, it's not just new employees, it's your tenured seasoned employees that may have never worked with an advisor or gone to seek for financial advice. Are they ready for retirement? Because that's the worst thing. They worked with a company for 30 plus years and they're not ready for retirement. As an employer, how do you feel about that, right? Where an employee that has given 30 years to the company may not absolutely be prepared. So, working with your current provider is one thing. I mean, we can take this offline a little bit, Tracy, and talk about the inner workings of how maybe RBC can support that type of strategy. And these are very cost-effective ways that they can happen. They don't have to be very expensive programs.
What I was just going to touch on, and it's what's trending in the news this morning, is the shortage in the hospitality and restaurant. They just can't seem to get employees out. So. And we have a lot of members that are restaurant, bar, hospitality, personal care services. I know my daughter's in that field and they can't hire enough. So, but those are the businesses that don't necessarily have the benefit program because they're smaller. They don't, you know, they're paying a minimum wage or maybe just $1 above that. And Pat, you can attest to that. You mentioned, so what can those smaller businesses do? And we've got a lot of members that they don't have an RSP plan in place. They're not offering a full benefit package. And I guess case in point is why they can't seem to get people, you know, to apply for their jobs or work, and they're all shorthanded right now. So what's out there, or what can they do?
And is Jennifer?
Yes.
Jennifer. You know, it's interesting because, to be very honest, those are the toughest conversations I've had with a couple companies. And it really is a matter of, they are so busy right now. It's the amount of busyness that has happened in the hospitality industry, the reintegration happened in such a spike way that they are playing catch up. So, you know, really some of the areas that, you know, and to be very honest, I haven't had a ton of experience working with the hospitality industry. So, you know, but in the experience that I have had, the key is really to, you know, what's the network that you're using to hire employees? Are you utilizing it in a way that is effective? And if that's not working, what other ways are you trying? Are you looking at employees in other industries that can transition into hospitality? Because if the old way didn't work, because it's evidently not working, and this has always been an issue in hospitality, is, you know, if an employee leaves, regardless of the position, it's always been challenging to find. So finding creative ways where you're looking, the resources that you're using has been providing a little bit more support. I'm sorry I don't have a more eloquent answer for you.
That's okay. That was great. It's all over the news as well today. So it's an ongoing problem.
The where you're looking tends to be a little bit more beneficial, and posting in areas that are different than your traditional places for hospitality.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Marco, there was a question in the chat here. It said, did RBC, it's from Tina Stevens, did RBC consult with small and medium-sized employers about some of the programs and activities they implemented to attract and retain employees?
Did or do? Is that
did?
Just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we small and mid-sized companies are implementing programs. They don't necessarily, they might not be as comprehensive as larger programs. So yes, small and mid-sized companies, we do work with them and provide consultation around program implementation.
Perfect.
And I do see a question from Pat. Does anyone have an employee engagement survey they are willing to share? Great question, Pat. I can share with everyone some questions. I won't share a specific one, but I will share some questions that you can put into your own personal employee engagement survey that I believe has worked quite well. And I mean, I could share that with one individual that Kyle, maybe you can share it with everyone. Or however, I'll make sure I get it out to everyone.
Sure, yeah, that sounds great, Marco.
No problem.
All right, well, again, Marco, thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation, a lot of great information in that. And thank you as well, again, to RBC Royal Bank for being the sponsor here for this morning's breakfast. We will now, for those of you who have been to these networking breakfast sessions that we've been holding, we do a casual networking event at the end. So if you're able to stay online, basically what we do is Tyler will put us into a random assortment of rooms where we get to have a certain amount of time to say hello to people we know or say hello to people we're meeting for the first time and chit chat a little bit like we would if we were actually sitting somewhere in a physical space together for having breakfast. So for those of you who can stay, fantastic. Those who cannot, thank you very much for joining us here this morning. It was great to see you all. So Tyler, I'm going to hand it over to you to put us into some rooms.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kyle. I'm just going to stop the recording here.